So today is day 60 of 2024. Tomorrow is March 1st. So that actually marks 2 months in of this journey that I've been on with being consistent and working consistently to become a better man. And so I thought, honestly, maybe it's time for a little update, see how I'm feeling, see how it's been going, what things I've noticed, just kind of give a little context on the whole thing that's been going on. So, first, I kind of want to talk about why I started this whole thing. Um, I have a lot of reasons for starting it, but I think the main reason was honestly, throughout my life, I've always been, super ambitious and I've always been super driven and I've always kind of done the things that, a lot of kids didn't do growing up. And I always felt, I think, for a long time that I was above average. And I always felt like, because I read all these books and I know all these things about random stuff like the stock market and finance. And I felt like cool, I guess. And I felt like bigger than everyone else. And I know that sounds like really egotistical to say. And I honestly think I just had a really big ego when I was younger. And I really just thought that being ambitious and wanting to do stuff that most kids didn't want to do at that time was cool. And I thought that that was like what set me apart when in reality, as I've grown up, I've realized that there are actually just a lot of ambitious people like that. I just didn't know a lot of them, and not only that, I know a lot of people right now who are super ambitious, who have big goals and want to do certain things. But what separates those people from who are average and who are not average is honestly action, taking action and moving in a direction that moves the needle and consistently taking action every day. And so, after I kind of sat with that thought and realized that I was really average. And I honestly got really sick of that thought. And I kind of realized that if I don't want to be average anymore and I'm sick of being average, then maybe it's time that I start to take some action instead of just talking about it and thinking that I'm, above everyone else. And I think that was a really important step that I needed to take, and I'm very proud that I've made that step for sure. And I think another reason why I decided to do this was, I think for a long time, I just tended to have like a lying problem. I tended to lie to a lot of people about stuff that I had going on, or even, I think, more importantly, I was lying to myself a lot in a sense of, I would tell myself, I'm gonna start going to the gym 3 times a week, and I never did for months. Or, I'm gonna stop drinking, and I never did for months. And, I'm gonna study for this test, or I'm gonna study for this class, and I'm gonna stay on top of this class for the rest of the year. Never did. And I think after a while, I just started to realize that I honestly didn't really believe myself most of the time. And I really didn't believe the things that I was saying. And I think that that's a really terrible problem, to lie so much that you can't even believe yourself. And I just kind of started to realize that, if I want to trust myself again, I got to build up that trust. And so by setting out a goal and doing that every day and making sure that I always do that, like I told myself I would, I can build that trust back up. So moving on to the things that I set out to do this year, one was improving athleticism. So just doing something every day to improve my athleticism. So for most of the videos, you can see that I do 3 miles 4 times a week. So those runs have actually been pretty interesting. Like I really hated them almost every time. I still hate them, but they really do provide me with a lot of mental clarity, especially when I'm running and I reach that 3rd mile and I'm kind of past that point where I'm like, oh, this sucks, and I'm more like, oh, this is not that bad, and I'm kind of just running and I get to clear my head and I get to think, and I think it's honestly pretty cool. And so far this year I've been on 34 runs, which I did all the math. I've done about 103 miles, which is honestly insane to think for only being just after February I've hit 100 miles. But moving on with my gym sessions, so I go to the gym 3 times a week. They're usually full body lift sessions. So far I've been to the gym 25 times, and honestly, those by far are my favorite with improving athleticism. I really like getting into the gym, and it's always something I've really liked. I just always had a problem consistently doing it, and I'm really glad I finally took that step and I started doing that. So for the next thing I set out this year to do was build a high income skill. So for that I chose coding practice, and I've consistently every day been working on coding and trying to get better at that and learning a lot and struggling a lot. But so far this year, in these 2 months, I've put in around 100 hours of coding practice. I've made it about 91% through the Odin Project Fundamentals module, or Foundations module. And then I've also gotten a good beginner grasp on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'm no expert by any means, but I think looking at last summer when I first tried to learn coding, I think I'm pretty impressed with the amount of progress I've made, given that from last summer to the end of 2023, I pretty much knew nothing because I pretty much just told myself every day I was going to learn it, but I never actually did that, so that's kind of a problem. But moving on to the last thing that I wanted to improve on the consistent basis, which was schoolwork. So over the course of 2 months, I've put in around 65 hours of studying and working on school. Compared to last semester, I went from having B's and C's in roughly all my classes to having A's and high B's. So that school stuff has been going good. My GPA has been going up. I haven't been as stressed as much with classes because I've been staying on top of it more. And overall, that's just been a big stress reducer. Moving on to how I'm feeling now after 60 days. Honestly, pretty great. I'm pretty proud of how I feel. Maybe I haven't achieved everything that I thought I could have achieved after 2 months, or everything that everyone else may have thought I should have achieved in these 2 months. But what I will say is that the main point of this whole journey is that I started, and that I actually took some action, and that I am taking action every day, and I'm going to continue taking action every day. I think that's the most important part, because I've been trying to do this for like 3 years, and every time I fizzled out under 2 months. So the fact that I am here and I've made it 60 days, I really don't give a damn about how far I've made it, or if someone else would have made it farther in the 2 months. The main point is that I did it, and that I'm doing it right now, and that I'm going to keep on doing it. Like, at the end of the day, that's what's most important. And for once in my life, I've stayed consistent and kept true to my promise, and I think that's just an extremely important thing. Now on to what I have noticed through this process, which first thing I would say that I've noticed is that I have a lot more confidence, and not in a sense of like, that I think I'm better than anybody, but more of just like, I feel more confident in my abilities. So with coding, I no longer feel like this sense of just like panic and anxiety when I code, because I feel like I now have a better grasp on what I'm doing. When I open a project, or when I open a lesson, or when I do practice problems, I'm more confident going into that practice problem knowing that I somewhat know what I'm doing, and even if I don't, I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. Same thing with school. Like, I took my exam today, and I just had spent the past 3 days studying, so now going into this test, I had more confidence knowing I was more than likely going to be fine. I didn't have the anxiety of like, what if I bomb it? I knew I wasn't going to bomb it. I had studied so much, and it was all going to be okay. So the second thing I've noticed is that I have more mental strength / resistance to caving into certain things. So one thing that I have found surprising with this whole journey that I'm doing is that it's almost gotten harder but easier every day. So while the runs still suck every day, I hate those. They're not fun. And sometimes the coding isn't that fun because I'm working on a module that I really don't get, and I'm getting frustrated, or maybe the schoolwork sucks some days. What has made it easier is that every day that I keep going, it's almost like this risk that gets so much higher that, even if a run sucks, even if coding sucks, I can't afford to lose that streak of 40 days, 50 days, 60 days. Like, for me, that's by far what makes it the easiest every day, is knowing that I built up such momentum and I built up such a streak that I can't lose that. Now, lastly, and I think honestly one of the most important things that I've noticed is motivation. More motivation and more, honestly, happiness, I would say, if I had to describe it. I really think that by doing this journey and by working consistently on things I want to improve on, but also by making content and striving to do that, and just trying something new, putting myself out of my comfort zone. While it's been so scary at times, especially when I'm doing it for the first time, it's also been really, really fun and cool. And like, I don't know, just the feeling of doing cool stuff and making cool stuff it's a pretty awesome feeling. Like, I genuinely feel motivated every morning when I wake up. And I don't mean that in like a gung ho way. Like, I wake up smiling and doing push ups. Like, I'm still tired every day, but like, once I'm up and I'm like into that grind and doing all those things, I'm actually having a lot of fun. And I love making the content, and I really am happy to see how it's been performing and seeing how, you know, it has impacted people, and people have been, supporting it, and they've been drawn to it. And I think by far that was the coolest thing, because content for me was never something I did more for the view sense, but it was more of just an accountability factor. I just wanted to have a very public way of keeping myself accountable and making sure that I always showed up to prove that I did what I did for the day. Because the thing is, if I would have just kept it to myself and I failed, nobody would have to know that I failed. It would be just me. And I think that was honestly a big reason why I never succeeded most of the time, was because I always knew that I could always just tell people that I was still going to the gym or I was still going on runs. No one would know. Whereas with this, like, I've tried to make it a point to where everything that I film is proof that I'm doing that thing. And because of that, I've had this almost bulletproof, accountability factor that I have to, adhere to every day. And I think that that's honestly brought me more motivation and happiness than stress. Because honestly, I thought that's what it was going to be, was a lot of stress. But I mean, I feel motivated to post every day. I feel motivated to, to clock in for the day and punch in my day for a win, and I think that that's awesome, and it makes me really happy. And I'm honestly really excited to keep going and see what progress I'm going to see. But that's my 2 months of consistency review and how I'm feeling and how things are going. I hope anyone that's watching this enjoyed it. Just as a final note, I would really like to say thank you. Thank you for supporting everything that I've been doing. I've been getting, these past couple weeks have been crazy with the amounts of views and support and likes and all that. And that's not something I ever try to ask for or ever want to ask for. But I do appreciate it when it comes in, and I don't want to let that go, unthanked. And to all of you that do support the videos, that do put in the time out of your day to, give me a nice comment and support or leave a like or whatever, I really appreciate it. And it means a lot to me. And yeah, see you guys tomorrow, day 61.